I'm going to look at a variation against the Scandinavian. It's a surprise weapon. So it starts with e4, d5, b takes d5, queen takes d5, knight c3, queen a5, and now rook to b1. So the idea of this move is to play b4 immediately, and say after c6 tends to be the most popular reply. So now after b4, queen can go back to c7. This is fine, white doesn't mind us. Let's play g3, knight f6, bishop g2. And now black has a couple of options. You can play bishop f5, so bishop to f5 or e6. Okay, so bishop f5, trying to develop his bad bishop to a good square. Knight can come to g2, e6, and now b5. So now white wants to play on black's weakness of these light squared pawns, as you'll see in a minute. So knight bd7, we can just take, and castle. We see that white's position is totally fine here. Black's already got a very weak pawn on c6. This bishop is very well placed. We've got a rook controlling the b file, as well as having all our pieces pretty much developed. So say after bishop d6, plan for us now is just to get his bishop out into the game. So we could play d4, stopping any c5 or e5 ideas maybe later on. And now we are ready to develop our bishop onto c1, maybe to g5, or even f4 is probably a better option, just to trade off his good bishop for a bad bishop. So say after castle, bishop f4, and after takes we can just recapture our knight. And white has a very good position here. We're going to try and play queen f3, maybe trying to capture the c pawn. And so yeah, this is totally fine for white. Okay, so if black plays e6 instead, then we can just continue with knight g2, and now bishop d6. It's the most active square for the bishop. If bishop comes to e7, then I don't think this is maybe not. I don't know. It's not as good in the sense that our bishop can get to f4 and attack the queen immediately. But then again, even when the bishop's on d6, we can still play bishop f4 and just swap off his good bishop for our bad bishop. Also, the problem with having bishop on d6, as I'll show you in a minute, is after b5. Let's basically after b5 ideas. When the bishop's on d6, we can end up getting our knight here and be able to fork the queen and bishop, which don't worry about that because I'll show you that in a minute. So b5, so this is in this line. They play bishop to e7 here. Then we can just play b5 and after c5, say, because it's not really any other good way for black to play. The bishops can't really get out, and this knight can't really develop either because we're just going to take here and give black a very bad position. So after c5, we can just play d3. So now we have ideas of playing bishop f4. And so after castle, so we can just play play b6 first. And now after takes, I think bishop f4 is better here, just because if we can provoke this e5 move, now b6 is very good, because if takes, now I can play knight to b5, and now there's no way for the queen to defend the e5 pawn. So say if queen d8, we can just recapture our e5 pawn with a very good game. Black can be a pawn up here if he takes on a2, but that's fine, we don't mind that. We can play knight c3, and after that the rook retreats somewhere. So he goes all the way back to a8, and we get to castle. We have ideas in the knight c7, or just bishop c7, attacking the queen, and then just going to take the b6 pawn. Our bishop's very well placed here. So knight c6 is probably what black is going to reply with, but then we can play bishop to c7, and after like queen d8 because we captured a pawn. Now threatening knight to c7, winning the exchange. So this is also not very good for black. I mean, he's probably better off not taking this pawn and maybe trying to play knight a6. Okay, that's fine as well. We can still play, just castle here, and maybe after well, okay, say they go rook e8, and play knight c3 again, and it's hard to see where black's pieces are going to develop. This bishop is tied down due to bishop takes b7. The knight can't really move because knight c7. Bishop's a bit stuck. We might play bishop back to f8. We could play rook e1 or something. And the queen hasn't really got any squares either. So white's doing very well here. Okay, so that's if they play bishop e7. Okay, if they play bishop to d6. So there's another idea. So bishop d6, then we can just play b5 again. This is our typical plan, to play b5 and trying to create weaknesses on black's queen side. So the castle, we can just take, and after knight takes we can play knight b5, stopping off the black's bishop. And if b takes c6, then we play knight b5 as well. So after c takes b5, just bishop takes a8. So here we're also going to get that bishop off. So say if they played c5 again here. Okay, so it's c5 here. Then white can just castle probably, and after castle play d3. We're in no rush to play b6, seeing as the black can't play b6 himself due to bishop takes a8. So yeah, b6 is no rush. He could stick his queen in a way. But okay, we can play knight a4 to remove the queen, or we can play bishop e3, lining up threats against the queen, or play a4, a5. So that's no good. And then say they play queen a5, it's probably a better way to play. Put a bit of pressure on some of our pieces. And now b6 is not attacking the queen. Then I think we could play bishop to d2 here. Or actually I just saw an interesting idea, just playing b6 first. Because now this move, the idea of this move is to block the queen from escaping. So now after takes, knight b5, attacking the bishop back to e7, bishop to d2, and the queen's running out of squares. And you can take here, but then maybe rook a1. I'll probably play knight c3 first. And yeah, actually, black is just lost here. The queen's got no squares really. You can go back here, but then that knight d5, that's a piece. And then if queen back to a6, let's play knight to c7. So yeah, this is very good for white. And even after queen here, we can go knight back here again. And if queen back to a7, let's go knight to here first. Knight to b5 first. Okay, yeah, so this is very bad for black. See, it's very hard to see how he's going to play. And even after b6, if black plays a6, this doesn't help him now either, because this pawn, like I said, stops the queen from retreating. And now he can just play bishop d2, lining up threat to maybe knight coming to e4, trying to win the bishop. And already you see black's in a lot of trouble trying to make room for his queen. He might have to play c4 here, so his queen can escape this way along the 5th rank. But now I was looking at knight b5. I think he needs to get away if queen takes b6. So maybe just play it simple here. Just knight e4, attacking the queen with our bishop, and also attacking the bishop, his bishop. So okay, you can play queen a3 or queen to e5. Queen e5 just loses to bishop f4. And after queen a3, okay, I've already seen that we can play either bishop to a3, which removes the queen from the defence of the bishop. But after queen takes it, it's knight c3, and this is lost for black. Or we could even just take here, and after queen takes, just play bishop b4. This is wins the exchange, which is also going to be winning probably in the game, but winning the piece is obviously going to be preferred after bishop c1. So now the queen can't defend the bishop, and after queen takes here, obviously knight takes is not that good because the queen takes b1. So knight here first, attacking the queen and defending the rook. And now the queen's only move, and you save squares, queen back to a5, but now I can just take on d6 and we're a piece up. So yeah, this was completely winning for white. And you can take on c3. I just realised this actually. But now we can just take on c8. And after rook takes c8, bishop takes b7 is the problem. Variant win of rook, and then after that knight b7, we can just take, play the pawn here. Okay, we don't need to look at this any further. Takes, and say like queen d6, and white's winning this. So yeah, it's very there's not really any theory on this line particularly. It's rook b1 move on move 4. So yeah, I recommend you play this move. It's I played it quite a lot of times as well. Got very good results with it. As black doesn't really know what to do, he tends just to play, like I said, just c6, just to try and make room for the queen. But then he's played a simple fianchetto plan: knight to e2, b5, taking castle. So all the plans are very similar. Okay, the variation I want to recommend against queen d6 is to play d4, and now after knight f6, bishop to d3. Obviously queen takes d4, just bishop b5 check wins the queen. So a6, knight e2 defends this pawn, and now the idea if it's knight e2 moves is play bishop f4. And okay, well, b5 tends to be played here, so after bishop f4 they can play queen to b6, and then we can just castle and we get a good position. We could also probably start attacking his pawn, and after b4 play a5. The idea is now our knight can come to a4, and already black's getting himself in a bit of a mess, because after queen to a7 just knight to a4, and we're threatening to come to c5 and the v6, defending against this knight coming to c5. Then we could play knight to c1 and into b3, play positionally, or we could just play knight to g3 maybe. Yeah, c3 is also a possibility, but we don't particularly want to get rid of that b4 pawn as its weakness in black's position, so we can take advantage of this later on. Bishop takes c7 also looks very good. So I think after bishop takes g2, I don't think black can get away with this. Obviously if king takes and queen takes c7, but I think we could just take on b8. Now the idea is if black recaptures, then we can just take on g2, and if queen b7 defending the bishop, then I think we just save the bishop, I guess. And now, okay, they can take here, but this is good for white. And if they try any bishop h1 ideas with the idea of queen to coming to g2 checkmate, then we can just play knight to f4, defend against this. And now, say they attack the knight with bishop d6, play f3, or we could even play f3 first. I mean, even after f3, there's bishop takes, but then we can just play on like with normal moves. It doesn't matter he's taken here, because even after he gets back, we can just play rook f2, defending against this mate threat, or even knight f4. I'm afraid to take the rook, and yeah, white's winning this position. So yeah, that's one line I want to recommend. It's queen d6. There's another interesting line I used to play quite a lot as well. And after knight f6, you'd play knight f3, a6, bishop c4, b5, bishop b3, and after bishop b7 you go knight e5. So attacking the f7 pawn, so e6, and now bishop f4. So this can be quite dangerous for black, obviously. White's now threatening to go knight g6 and attacking the queen, and then after knight g6 you can just attack the rook. Bishop takes g2 cannot be recommended, as there's rook g1. Bishop now has to move, so say if it goes back, knight to g6, knight protects the bishop, bishop attacks the queen, and after queen moves, we just win the rook. This is no good for black. So the best move for black is to play queen b6, gets queen out of the way. And now is castle, stopping bishop take on g2. And after any sort of move here, so say if knight comes to d7, we just play d5. And white gets quite good position in these lines as well. It's very, I don't know, it's very annoying for black players to face this sort of move d5 because they sort of want to have use this square as a outpost or for that one of their pieces and defend, just like play very, very solidly, and also keep this bishop diagonal open. So after d5 sort of ruins black's position, because now he's gonna have to like take, and after we take, you will see the dangers. We're threatening the queen, and after takes, we can just take, and obviously takes. It's losing for black, so we're threatening the rook, the knight, and f7. And so yeah, in this position, we're also threatening f7. And say if he takes our knight, we're going to take back, and we have a very good position here. In bishop, rook might come to d8, but then we have just the tactics of just check, and after takes, we can play queen takes. And if bishop takes, we can just play queen takes, so rook d8. Then we can just put our queen on e4. Put our rooks in the centre, and it's hard for black to develop because after bishop e7 was going to win the g7 pawn. So queen e6 is probably best, but now we can play rook e1. Still bishop can't develop because it's pawn, and now attacking the c7 pawn, so white's doing very well here as well. So I added two sort of surprise weapons on to just show you. The biggest surprise weapon was the rook b1 move. Against queen a5. Doesn't look like a very good move, it just looks like you're sticking a rook on a rubbish square. Looks a bit pointless, but his b4 move, playing like this, is very dangerous for black to handle. Especially when they don't particularly know how to play against this, since no one really plays this. Most people play the main lines with you when you play d4, and then after like c6, knight f3, knight f6, bishop c4, bishop f5, like bishop d2 and e6, these sort of moves. So yeah, they tend to get this, like the black players in Scandinavian tend to get this pretty much 90% of the time. So anyway, yeah, that's all on Scandinavian for now. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.